All right. So, welcome to our first event in Sustainability Reimagined. I'm Leona Fricker, founder, inspirer, and chief at Inspiration Space. And I am pleased to welcome Natalie Welch, co founder of the Typeface Group, for our first session. So, why are we
Hi.
doing this? We are doing this because business as usual is over. And now it is time to reimagine our role as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as communicators, creators, makers, and take our place in the green economy. It is growing exponentially. There are so many opportunities. And at the same time, if we're not able to talk the talk and walk the walk, we will miss out. So, over the next 3 weeks, I have invited in folks who inspire me, who are doing things differently, who are doing things practically, so that they can offer some words of advice and insight as to how you can lead, change some of the ways that you're working, and just think about business differently. So Natalie, thank you for joining us today. We're talking about cleaning up our digital act. Before we get started, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and Typeface Group?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, Liana. So, yeah, I'm Nat, co-founder of the Typeface Group. We are a B Corp accredited communications agency and design studio in Hampshire. And we really started on our sustainability journey in 2019, where we got a lady in called Nancy who came and did a huge sustainability audit on the whole of our business, including our practices. And from there on, we decided to start going down the B Corp route and tracking how we're doing, making goals based on our carbon footprint, and also then start helping our clients be more carbon considered, because everything that we do has got that consideration involved.
Carbon considered. I like that because I'm a sucker for alliteration.
Yes.
And it makes sense because it's not about setting a standard for yourself where you're doing everything perfectly, because the reality is some of the solutions that we need don't exist.
Yeah.
Carbon considered, I quite like that. So, yeah, go on.
Yeah. Also, it's still quite new. There's not a perfect way to measure it. If there's things that we do that we know has carbon output, but we're not quite sure yet how much, and there's nuances involved, and you can get really deep. But just to know that everything we're doing has an output. So is it worth it? I think that's the way we approach it.
And that's what we're talking about today, because when I went on my own carbon literacy journey, I was shocked and surprised about the hidden cost of digital emissions. Our team works remotely. I use renewable energy at home. I can tell you our gas mix and how much of that comes from off like waste from farms and et cetera, et cetera. But my digital footprint wasn't something that I considered, and yet it is significant. I've learned that an email sent to 100 people, so your standard email campaign, is the same as 67 flights between Amsterdam and Rome.
Yeah.
And so when you think about how emails are people sending, how many digital marketers are recommending these long email campaigns, and then you start adding it up. And then let's take it a step further. Imagine you're a sustainable brand, and this is how you're conducting your digital marketing. The two things are actually at odds with one another.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to dive into today, is cleaning up our digital acts.
Yeah.
So how are you all approaching this, and how are you approaching it with your clients?
No one's perfect. Everyone's got a starting point, right? So it's not beating yourself up for doing things that you've been told to do because that's the way things were done. So writing content because you need to play the Google game, posting X amount of reels a day because you've got to play the Instagram game. The only game you're playing there is the algorithm game and adding to the problem, right? Because posting constantly on Instagram, not only if you're not adding value, you're adding noise, and you're encouraging people to spend more time on the platform, which is also a carbon output. So all those things that you need to start realizing the only game you're playing, if you're playing the Google and the Instagram game, is their game, not always best for the planet or even your business or your time. Time is energy. It's not just about carbon output, right? It's about getting value from your time and your marketing budget as well. We strip people back. We look at the data. We're like, you know that no one reads this, right? Or no one's actually engaging with you, or you're getting no conversions from this particular platform. But we don't just say delete it. We're like, how are you using it? Is there an opportunity there? So it's not about cancel culture. We know that green hushing is also probably just as annoying as greenwashing most of the time, because it makes people fearful of trying. But it's about using the data and knowledge to ensure that whatever you're doing has a point. We become your critical friend, we call it, but it could also fall into annoying toddler of why. But why though? But why? Because if you haven't got a why, what's the point? There are always going to be things that are brand awareness, but there has to be a purpose. Why do people need to know about your brand? And are you trying to target everyone, or are you targeting the right people? Everything we do tries to help people save money, or at least get better conversions from their spend, and help the planet at the same time. It's almost that. And because we're doing all this, we're also reducing carbon. So we're making you more money and reducing your carbon at the same time. It's quite a nice little Venn diagram of where you can be.
And you touched on this, it's the mental health part, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially when, imagine you're a solo marketer in a department. So you don't have a lot of people to even bounce ideas off of. You have sales targets that you need to hit, and you're just trying all of the things. And you can't tell what's working, what's not working, and your creativity is getting tapped out. Your morale is dissipating very quickly. And I think this idea of hearing being carbon considered is almost a justification to take a step back and say, well, hold on a minute, what are we doing? Because the two things are actually really tied. Even the pressure of in what's going to make the algorithm work now. We don't do a lot on Instagram. I was listening to some social media managers talking about the fact that, yeah, my Reels engagement is really low. Turns out now they're prioritizing carousels. But when you think about the impact of digital and video streaming, even this conversation right now, that has an impact. And so how many people, for the sake of their mental health and their carbon footprint, went all in on Reels, only to find out that actually Instagram has changed strategies and now it's all about carousels.
Yeah. And I think a previous conversation I had with you, Liana, and are you then taking out your digital waste? Are you getting rid of your trash that's on the internet still? Because you've posted this reel, right, which people watched. In that split second, it was hot potato, right? And then we're 4 months later, the information is no longer valuable to you, your business, or your audience, and it's just sitting there on Instagram. That is taking up carbon, because Instagram has these huge servers and data services. Their emissions is higher than the airline industry. So when we're talking about don't go on holiday because your carbon footprint, maybe delete some stuff off Instagram as well. It's what are they distracting you from? We have so much trash on the internet that no one is deleting, that it's quite hilarious. At the moment, I think the last 2 years, my clients are sick of it, but now they just do it. I'm like, okay, so what are we deleting today then, guys? It's literally back end of website. No one's reading this. This was last year's Apprentice Week blog. We're not updating it this year, so let's just delete it. It doesn't need to sit there doing nothing, taking up storage. Think about our iClouds, Google Drives, all the stuff that is stored there as well. This is all digital footprint stuff, right? I literally cleansed my personal Google Drive images because I'm like, my son's not going to go through this if heavens forbid, anything happens to me. And it's just sitting there burning energy. Who cares what I had to eat? That photo you took for Instagram to show everyone all my delicious lunch. Why are we doing this? But anyway, deleting stuff who's taking out your digital trash? Because that stuff is sitting there. No one's recycling it for you. It's your responsibility. So there's just so much we can do by deleting stuff that no longer serves anyone.
Man, I got like goosebumps for a whole lot of reasons. Because again, for me, it goes back to that mental, this performative nature of marketing.
Yeah.
And I think women in particular get this message beat at them: build your personal brand. Build your personal brand. And then people that are doing this successfully, and they're on TikTok and they're on LinkedIn, like, you open up an app and they're just shouting in your face all the time. And I can't deny the fact that I do see it. And I'm like, when do these people work? Or is it just me? Because I can't be profound all the time. My inbox is wild, right? I'm constantly chasing my tail.
Yeah.
So many things. Like, half of the ideas in my head never get to see the light of day. And that sometimes makes me sad, right? So I can't document my experience in real time. It's going so fast. So this idea of being on all of the platforms, making all of this content, for what? So how do you manage this for your own self as a founder?
Wow. So I started as a social media manager, right? So, and at that time, we're talking 10 years ago, 11 years ago, the notifications were, oh, someone's engaged with one of my clients' things. This is so exciting. And now I'm like, where has that noise come from? Why have I got a notification on? I hate notifications. I don't have my email notifications on my phone, no social media notifications. I'm not on Facebook anymore. All of those things have now, it's turned into an anxiety thing because we were made to believe we had to be switched on 24/7. I do feel the pandemic, we then went from overstimulation, but it's like the boiling frog scenario, right? So it was a slow boil to being 24/7 on, to everything being switched off because we couldn't do anything. We heard birds singing for the first time because there's no aeroplanes in the sky, there was no cars on the road, to then everything reopening and expecting to be able to take that overstimulation back from nothing. And I'm like, no, I'm not taking this back. I don't want it. I don't want it in my life. It doesn't serve any purpose. I actually got really anxious for the first time in my life, hearing these dings and noises and sounds, to the point where my team now know if they really need something from me, they've got to phone me, my old school phone, because if they've sent me a Hangout or a WhatsApp, my phone's on mute 95% of the time. There's only certain phone numbers that can get through immediately that I can hear, because I just can't. It overstimulates me and doesn't put me in a great place, which is ridiculous, right? Because the whole point was to give you that dopamine level to go and spend more time on their platforms. But I think because I knew that was their game, I'm like, no, thank you. I'll go on my terms. So yeah, the mental health, especially for people that were in the social media marketing element, is massive. And there's so much that we're told that we need to do to please the vanity metrics and the platforms themselves rather than serving the business. And a lot of those things that we are told to do not also serve your clients very well or the planet.
Yes, and a lot of this gets rolled out as usual. Take a newsletter, and we'll have members in the community saying, okay, so and so told me to create a newsletter. And I'm thinking to myself, but your target audience, the people that are ultimately going to be your economic buyer, are heads of marketing. So if we take a step back for a minute, right?
Yeah.
How much traffic, how much noise do you think is coming at this person in a day, hell, an hour, right? How much noise is coming at them? How does that make them feel? What do they value? What are their problems? And then how is your newsletter fitting into all of this?
Yeah, there's a statistics out there that suppliers have 7% of their clients' time a week. So you've got to get in. That 7% needs to be so valuable to them. I can tell you, as an owner of a marketing agency, sending me a newsletter is not going to get you 7% of my time. Booking a call with me, that's how you get in front of me. The amount of emails that I get daily, cold solicited ones, and ones that I probably subscribe to, and ones that I probably should read, that I just delete because I haven't got the time and I'm apathetic to emails, is phenomenal. So if your emails were never that targeted to me, then it makes me open and read them. After about 4 or 5, I'm just trashing them anyway. I'm probably not even unsubscribing, which is awful, which is why we've got our campaign running next week. But I'm trashing them, which is not great for your stats because the open rate's gone down. I'm not engaging with it. Your click rate's gone down. The best thing you can do is hyper segment. So that person does read your emails or makes time to read your emails, but don't give me a newsletter that's just general. I'm worth more than that.
And there's something in the analog. I think that with the lack of transparency in kind of cloud computing, right?
Yeah.
What does carbon neutral actually even mean if I can't see your scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, right?
And you don't have to add scope 3 at the moment, which can make up to 80% of your carbon emissions. Yeah.
Okay, especially if you're like doubling down on Chat GPT, any kind of large language models,
mass emailing all your audience all the time.
Murky.
Yeah.
However, there's been a lot of progress in print. You can find printers in your area that are tracking, that are sustainable, that are using vegetable ink, like so sustainable. And I just think that there's an opportunity for this resurgence in print. We could track it. I love mail. I love posts. I love nothing more than holding a magazine. That's what I did during the lockdowns. I was just like, I just need something to stimulate me that is not my phone. And so I buy magazines.
Yeah. And I think another like tip out there is that if you're going to send something and you really want to make a cut through, send something that's a bit bulky. It goes on top of the mail because it's in a parcel and it's intriguing, right? So it's not just going to get chucked in with the other letters, especially if you're targeting big businesses that probably have. And you want to make that 7% of time, send them something not only that's reusable or sustainable, but really showcases your expertise and values. An email doesn't do that.
Not when it's one in a sea of many, in a sea of many more.
Yeah.
When you think about the phone as the vehicle for all types of messaging between the WhatsApp groups for each kid's class. So I literally, whatever else I've been added to, my personal inbox, my work inbox, brand Twitter, like you could have stuff firing at you all the time. And it's so easy, like you say, to become apathetic. But a quarterly magazine that's got insights and it's thoughtful and case studies of clients and wins, that's the kind of thing people look forward to receiving.
Yeah.
And I would challenge anyone who's watching this, and maybe I'm going to take this for myself, is this: could you measure the saving in both carbon and cost versus the return in new business from taking a different approach?
100%. If you think about the transaction of sending an email with a photo or an attachment is 50 grams of carbon. What else could you have done with that carbon that might have had a better impact? I'm not saying you need to not spend 50 grams of carbon, but one that had a better impact that gets a result for you. It's all about that balancing act. The newsletter thing's a great example because I do feel these days for generic email marketing needs to stop. It really does. Not just for the carbon footprint, but no one's reading them, or very little are. We shouldn't be proud for a very small open rate. We need to be better ourselves. And so segmentation, again, this is about getting better results for business. And the offset of that can be better carbon footprint as well. So you deserve better. You deserve more people opening your emails. And if it means sending it to a smaller pool of people who are really engaged, do it.
I love that. And you actually inspired me when I signed up for the Clean Up Your Digital Act campaign. I'm one of those people, I was like, I have to take at least one action when I start. Otherwise, I feel like a little bit of like an armchair quarterback.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I'm
it's
on the
all well and good
bench.
to sign up for the right.
Yeah,
Like I signed up for this for the challenge. That could be as far as I go because life happens, right?
yeah,
Nothing else. I need to take an action
yeah.
from this inspiration. And so as we were redoing our own email and moving platforms, I've added to the bottom, hey, you cleaning out your inbox? Unsubscribe. It's good for the planet.
Yes, exactly. We've got it on the bottom of ours. We don't want to waste your time or the planet's energy. Please unsubscribe if this is no longer serving you. It's not a bad thing to get people unsubscribing. It means your list is going to be better, and giving people that permission, because unsubscribing or unfollowing someone who doesn't bring you joy on Instagram, and that's not an act of aggression, it's an act of self-preservation. So just do it, and don't take offense if people do it to you. Be like, fine, you're not my people anymore, and that is okay.
And that's why I'm putting it at the bottom.
Yeah.
No, it's like this is coming from a place of love, and it's that carbon consciousness, that environmental stewardship. If our value is putting that at the heart of entrepreneurship, we're going to give as much opportunity as possible for people to join us on that journey.
Yeah.
And you put it at the bottom, and it does feel good because with my ADHD, I've got rejection sensitivity. So I've definitely spent more than a day.
You're giving them a permission. Yeah. Yeah.
Unsubscribe. But only for my own sake.
Exactly. But also update your own like internal policies and processes. If no one's opened one of your emails for 6 months, just take them off. Just do it for them. And I've had emails to say, look, you haven't opened our emails 6 months, so we've removed you. If I've done this presumptively, you can resubscribe here. You can do it for them. You don't have to wait. If you see that your open rate's gone down and the same person is there, chances are they've probably left anyway. Do it anyway. Just take them off. Don't wait. Improve your own list. Take out your own digital trash. Come on, we can do this.
And you may find that you start saving money, because if you can remove, say, 100 people, and all of a sudden you can put yourself back on a free plan for MailChimp or something, it's like, wow, we're saving money. We're being considerate of people that we want to be of service to, and we're doing good for the environment.
It's great that you mentioned obviously an email service provider, and it was just because also other things you can do is look at who you're using to send these things from. What are their do they care? We always audit who we work with, and actually one of the services we use, we're like, you don't seem to have an environmental policy, so we've emailed them, where is this? Don't make us change systems again. But that can also help, right? Because if you are a company and emailing works for you, so I'm not digging at the ones where email works, it is a very good tool if used properly. Make sure you're using it with a company that also cares about the planet, whose data systems might be done on renewable energy, versus someone who doesn't care. So just by changing your suppliers and having a look at their credentials can help you reduce your emissions as well. Your hosting, for example, there's an amazing UK hosting company called Nimbus, and they have renewable data centers as well. And because they're in the UK, they're GDPR compliant and all that jazz. So just monitoring and looking at who you're using to do your marketing can help reduce those emissions.
Yes, this is something that we focus on in our low carbon accelerator. After you go through and you do your initial carbon literacy boot camps, we look at implementation, and we work with Small 99, and we use their hero tool, because I am patient zero in inspiration space. So everything that we do is basically, we test it on me. Did she complete the task all the way? Yes. All right, go. Awesome. And with the Small 99 hero, there's a whole area focused on your digital emissions. And so I went through and I made a list of all of our software providers, which was great from a financial perspective. Are we even using some of this stuff anymore? Because you know what it's like. You're paying like $9.99. That's fine if it's one $9.99, but 10 $9.99s for things you're not using start to add up. So I went through and I did a forensic analysis, used the template that they had, and I emailed every single provider. And where they didn't get back to me, I looked at their website, and when they had a sustainability policy, I put a link to that. And so as part of our own financial management, we have that information and we use Sage Earth to make it even more transparent. So we can see our scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, in particular in that software space, because it matters.
It really
All
does.
matters.
And it's those things that you think, oh, that's not my problem, that's their problem. You've got a choice, you are a consumer. And one way we make change is by changing where we spend our pounds, right? So have a look at what you are using, even down to your social media scheduling tools. Your website carbon footprint is always a fun one to do, which you can actually, if you Google website carbon calculator, you can have a quick look and see how dirty or clean it is. There's loads of system-based checks that you can do to make sure when you are doing things like putting blogs out, it's in the cleanest way possible as well.
I love that, because again, as part of the low carbon accelerator process, we did this for our own selves, and we got low case funding to create a new website, because our old website was like dirtier than 90% website carbon. They use like some pretty like
it's literally like
your website language. Right? It's attention grabbing language.
Yeah.
And when we had the new website built, it was great because it was for our web developer. It was the first green website she had done, because now she's carbon literate. And when we finished it and showed up and it's, you're cleaner than 80% of websites, I was like, and exactly. And all of that matters. And I want to make this point again, in particular, if you are a purpose-driven company or a sustainable brand, because the line between greenwashing becomes very thin when you're saying that everything that you do is eco-friendly, and yet you're not tracking your carbon, you don't have any cloud-based measurement tools in place, and your website is dirtier than 97% of sites on there.
Yeah, I speak to a lot of businesses that don't even realize that I can have a quick check. And quite a few of them are actually in the sustainable and renewable space, but it's just because it's not spoken about. And so it's like, oh, I've not, but once you can't turn back. And so some of this is about explaining it. A lot of carbon neutral businesses at the moment are not checking in on their digital footprint. And I feel that they're going to have a bit of a shock in a few years' time that these emissions might be included. So either their carbon offsetting is going to get really expensive, or they won't be able to if they haven't done some of the basics. So by starting to learn about it and improve things now, no one is perfect. You'll be ahead of the curve for when these things become part of the main narrative, which they're not now. They're like the dirty little secret that's over here. And part of that is because we're not quite 100% sure how to track them yet, because a lot of it's down to how I have written an email on my brand new laptop is probably less carbon than someone who's writing it on a 5-year-old machine. So there's all those nuances on. Then I've then sent the email to Liana, and her machine's 10 years old. So that's literally being fueled by coal. So there's all those nuances where we can't be precise, but we can be open to the information to think, how can we do better?
And we can do what we can within our own control. So looking at our servers, green hosting, we can look at minimizing or being more strategic with our digital marketing, something we're going to talk about next week when folks join us with Tanner and Isabella from Kind Communities, this concept of DIY versus outsourcing it. I have a feeling outsourcing to the right partner could be better for your carbon footprint than you trying to do it yourself, she says, with how many Canva files on her own hard drive, which is a mockery. Oh, and Pam's bringing in about, open blockchain tech. Now blockchain is one that I'm really interested in particular, looking at the UK and our ability to generate clean energy and create our own nice, ethical, transparent server farms and things to create open blockchain. I think that's definitely a space that I want to explore some more. So thank you for that, Pam, because that's a very good idea. So before we wrap up, Natalie, can you give us one big tip and then tell us about how Typeface can actually be they're called body doubles over the next week to guide anyone who wants to clean up their digital act. I've signed up and I'm all excited.
One big tip, I would just go back and look how much you're hoarding and clear down and question whether you need those out of offices on for just telling people you're not working these hours versus I'm actually not available because I'm on holiday. Do you need to send emails that are 2 words long just to say thank you for receiving something when that's the whole point of an email? Just review how you're using email, how you might be using social media, and is it serving you in the way that you'd hope it is, or are you just adding to the noise? We're not all perfect. We all fall down a rabbit hole sometimes, but giving yourself some parameters to pull yourself back out, I think it will help your mental health as well as cleaning up your act a little bit. Also, as Liana has kindly mentioned a couple of times, next week we're running the first, hopefully of many, digital cleanup campaigns. It's absolutely free to sign up to, where we're sending an email out a day with a couple of things you can do immediately to clean up your act and to track how that might have improved your carbon footprint or how it could impact your carbon footprint in the future. So you can do that by going to our website, which is www.thetypefacegroup.co.uk, and going to our digital cleanup page, which is /digital-clean-up. And we will send you an email starting Monday for 5 days, which will give you some more hints and tips, quick ones, and then longer term considerations that you might want to add to your to-do list to get you on that journey, to open you up so you can't go back. Once you see these things, you can't go back.
Exactly that. And that's a good point around the autoresponders. I turned mine off because I used to have one on there because that was like the thing that everyone said to do.
Yeah.
I turned it off because I was like, oh my God, I'm spamming people's inboxes with this thing.
Yeah. Also, if you look at your sent items, how many emails do you send in a month then? Not you actually sending, but these autoresponders, that's all sitting on a server. So even though the carbon footprint of that actual email might be quite low because it's just a FYI information, it's still taking up space on your server, which still needs energy to run. So it's the little things that can make a difference. And if we all just do something, it will make a big difference. We can't all do everything, but if we all start to do something, it will have a good impact.
It's the old Care Bear Stare approach. If I do what I can do and you do what you can do, and we can hold hands and then blast our little bellies, shine that light out all together, that's how we collectively win. We don't have to go all in on all the things. Pick the lanes that you're real passionate about, that you're just gonna do anyway.
Yeah.
And then double down. And I'd leave everyone also with this note, which is be vigilant with your emissions on your website. And I say this because I've just checked ours. We made a couple of updates. And so we got to go back in because it went back up again. So I'm like, yep. So this is a constant process. This is maintenance. It's a new way of doing business. This is business as the new usual, everyone. So, the earlier you can make these transitions and embed in some of the simple stuff, the easier it's going to be.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think someone mentioned about a website just in the chat. If you go to websitecarbon.com, you can put your homepage in there and it will instantly, it might take 30 seconds. The longer it takes, the more you've got to worry about. It will give you an indication. And I'd love to know anyone who does it, if they put it in the event, what they got. There's no shame here. We were all dirty at some point.
I just did ours and I was like, wait a minute, what happened? We were green and now it's red, but we've made some updates.
It happens like that. You've got to check it every 3 months because also the technology behind calculating changes. So it's just about doing the best you can with what you've got.
Oh, I could talk about this forever. So we're going to definitely need to do something else because now my head's going into to bring the designers in and talk about how we don't need videos and illustration and all. There's so many rabbit holes that we're going to jump into this. So hopefully this is the start of several conversations in this space, because like you say, it can't be this dirty little secret in the corner anymore. We need to bring it out there in the same way we talk about flights and
Mhm.
textile waste.
Yeah.
Our digital emissions. This is a big ticket item, my friends. So thank you very much, Natalie, for spending
Thank you
some
for
time
having me. Thank
on it
you.
and for kicking off our event series. We are back on Monday with Sam Staincliffe, the founder of Uplift 360. She is a member of Inspiration Space and has one of the most inspiring stories ever. She's going to talk about how when she came to our door, she wanted to fundraise £10,000 to make a doll. And within 90 days, working with our fabulous Pam Ionati, who's dialed in today as well, she created a circular materials company that uses waste from the Ministry of Defense to create a whole new world of things. And this is what, you know, the green economy is all about. It's about thinking differently about what we want for ourselves, what's possible, having some confidence to stretch our ambition a little bit, and going through the process of exploring and investigating uncharted territories. So Sam will be with us on Monday to share her story, and you can watch the replay from Today with Natalie on our LinkedIn channel. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.